Welcome to This Week in Boomtown. I'm Angela Ann. Central Ohio is growing rapidly, and 1 million new people are on the way. With that rapid growth comes stories of success, but also challenges, from increased traffic and construction to the critical need for affordable housing. 10 TV is committed to telling these stories every week with Boomtown. We'll shine a light on the growing pains and seek solutions to help your everyday life. Right now, you can see that growth everywhere. Skyscrapers in downtown Columbus, construction on I-70, the superloads heading to Intel, and new housing in the suburbs. There is no doubt Central Ohio is booming. But this growth did not happen overnight. Columbus's population has been skyrocketing for years. It has grown more than 15% over a decade, the quickest boom in the capital city's history. So, here's what we uncovered this week in Boomtown.
Bus Rapid Transit, which is the first 3 corridors we're building out, is really comprised of a very similar to light rail systems. Aside from the fact that we know that we need to be answering for the demand now, but we also need to be prepared for the growth that we're going to see in the region.
Central Ohio leaders say this growing region needs mass transit. That is why Central Ohio Transportation Authority levy is on the ballot this November in Franklin, Union, Delaware, Fairfield, and Union counties. That initiative is called Link Us, and it would build 5 bus rapid transit lines. The first 3 by the year 2030. These would stretch across areas like West Broad, East Main, and the Northwest Corridor, very similar to Cleveland's RTA Health Line. That cuts right through their downtown. The Link Us transit, however, would be much faster than a typical COTA bus.
And from a practicality standpoint, this was a way to bring the whole core of the region into mass transit all at once.
This is about lifting yourself up with more options, but also about lifting up your neighbors. A lot of folks can't drive, they don't want to drive. This gives them the ability to have more options.
Now, COTA held a town hall this week to talk about Link Us and explain to people where that funding would come from. That levy is a proposed 0.5% sales tax increase, and it would generate $6.2 billion over the next 25 years. Link Us would also connect surrounding communities with more sidewalks, trails, and bikeways. So if you missed the town hall this week, there is another one October 9th. This is taking place at Reynoldsburg High School from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Well, this week we saw how the critical need for more housing in Columbus could impact businesses. The Downtown Commission heard from developers and construction companies this week on plans to demolish and rebuild. One proposal looks to build a 24-story tower near Dirty Frank's on South 4th, while the other wants to tear down the old spaghetti warehouse building for a new mixed-use development. We'll start there. The commission tabled that idea because it wants to see reports from structural engineers about why the old spaghetti warehouse building needs to be demolished. The roof collapsed 2 years ago during a renovation, and developers say rather than save that building from the 1880s, they want to build an entire new complex.
It's not just one little section of the building, it's the entire building. Now, some portions of the building were not damaged, but economically, you can't just take a small portion of the building and build a new building around it.
Well, here's another snag for the developers of the old spaghetti warehouse building. Back in June, it was listed as an endangered historic Columbus site. We spoke with the CEO of the Columbus Landmarks Foundation about the efforts to preserve this building.
We heard a lot of different opinions from commissioners that really all have the best interests of Columbus in mind. And so what we want to see is the best use of that site for the community.
Dr. Rebecca Kemper also believes that building can serve as a unique landmark as the neighborhood transforms. We'll keep you posted as this process plays out. Now, as for the development proposed near Dirty Frank's, developers say they intend to keep that old brick building as is.
Part of this area has some historic buildings, but the other part of this area, the charm and love of this area, is its human scale architecture, the retail and restaurants that exist there that give it its vibrancy. And I think we know downtown is starving for more of these.
The developers say they would, however, tear down the building next door. That's on the corner of East Rich and South 4th Streets. And its place would be the Estrella, 24 stories high, with commercial, office, and 290 apartments, not to mention more than 300 parking spaces in the garage. Buildings like the Estrella will certainly change the downtown skyline in the years to come. We spoke with Angela Pace, 10 TV's Director of Community Affairs. She grew up in Columbus and is a legend in the news business. Pace says anyone looking at the downtown skyline can spot the signs of progress.
When I was a little girl, back in the dark ages, there was one building on the Columbus skyline, and that was the Levesque Tower. And to see that skyline now, to see all the skyscrapers that dwarf the Levesque Tower now, that's progress. That's progress.
Now, here's a number to really put the boom into perspective. Last year, downtown developers invested more than $1 billion in housing and construction. Meantime, housing development is picking up all across the country. Last week's interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve will certainly help with that. A nationwide analysis found that housing construction climbed 9.6% in August. Now, this could be good news for Central Ohio as the region struggles with a housing shortage. Ohio State Associate Professor Jason Reese says we need 200,000 units over the next 10 years just to keep up. And we're only building about half that every year.
If we don't keep pace with growth, housing costs will go up, and we'll lose that as an asset for the quality of life of folks here. Because that is a draw. You know, you get a good quality of life, a relatively, affordable housing stock. It suddenly attracts a lot of people. But if you lose that housing affordability, it just makes life much more difficult.
And a report by the Federal Reserve of St. Louis found 3,200 active house listings in Columbus in August, and that is a few hundred less than July, when inventory was at its highest since before the pandemic. Well, now data from the region's Planning Commission shows the median cost of a home in Central Ohio is up by $100,000. And new research from the Community Shelter Board shows rent up by 34%. Experts agree there is no quick fix to this housing crisis. I went to Austin, Texas, another boomtown struggling with affordable housing. And I spoke with organizers here and in Austin, to see how they're keeping the dream of a home even possible. From homeless to homeowner, Jasmine Wooten knows the struggle to afford a safe place to live in Columbus.
This year, closing on my home, it was a culmination of like 6 years of really hard work and kind of scratching myself out of circumstances.
The single mom of two struck gold this summer when her name was drawn for an affordable home through the Central Ohio Community Land Trust.
So my mortgage ends up being $1,280, including my home ownership insurance, but $1,100, you can't beat that.
A similar story for Carla Rangel, a renter in Austin. She spent more than a year homeless before she won the housing lottery there, an affordable apartment through the nonprofit Foundation Communities.
They called me up and they said, we'd like to give you an opportunity to tour and then sign your lease, and you can pick whatever apartment you want.
Experts say Columbus and Austin are both booming cities with the same problem. Affordable housing is scarce and the demand is growing.
We have more people than we can serve that want to be part of this program, so we have a lot to do ahead of us.
There's a wait list in our communities for affordable housing because our rents are so affordable.
In Columbus, a report published earlier this year shows the capital city is falling short by more than 52,000 affordable housing units.
We're talking about teachers and firefighters and police officers, and certainly folks who are working at restaurants and hotels cannot afford to live in the city that they're serving.
This year, Columbus City Council President Shannon Hardin spearheaded zoning changes. They include incentives for developers who include some affordable housing in their plans.
We think that zoning will help take us a long ways down that road, but that is just one tool in the toolbox.
Are leaders say part of the solution came from voters who renewed a bond that will keep money flowing toward the housing issue.
If we're going to achieve rents that are within reach of folks living on Social Security or on a disability income, we can't just borrow money and build the housing.
There's no perfect solution for the Silicon Hills or Heartland, but there is a common goal: to keep the dream of a safe home alive for people like Jasmine and Carla.
It's nothing short of a profound experience.
Just to have a home, a place that's safe, a place where there's a lot of help if you need it, it really makes a difference.
Sure does. And with all this growth, it begs the question, how does this impact public safety? And can cities hire enough people to protect and serve in the years to come? It's a big concern here and in Austin. We spoke with leaders in both cities about their plan of action and what that looks like to beef up public safety. Columbus is on a bold mission to bring its safety forces in line with the region's explosive growth.
We have never before as a city invested in 3 classes a year for several years in a row. It's unprecedented.
Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther says he hopes to have more officers on the street than ever before by the end of next year. A very ambitious goal considering the losses of sworn officers since 2020.
Safety, going to continue to be our top priority.
Safety is top priority in another boomtown down south in Austin, Texas. Like Columbus, the Austin Police Department is short-staffed. Their Downtown Alliance created a safety patrol team, much like Columbus's Community Crime Patrol.
This really helps allow APD to focus on the bigger crimes than Class C misdemeanors downtown.
Firefighter shortages are also issues facing both boomtowns. But just outside Austin, EMS crews are being pushed into the burbs and forced to work out of apartments due to lack of space.
We've had our ambulances vandalized because they're just out in the open. They're not behind, a secure bay. So it's just, it's not a safe place. It's not an appropriate place for public safety.
Another city near Austin is building its 9th fire station with a 10th about to break ground. Round Rock city manager says to best serve a city of 130,000 is to build safety services before the growth arrives.
So constantly challenging your assumptions and not just doing what is easy. So it was a lot more difficult to identify this property, but it's going to serve our community better into the future. And then we don't have to hire a bunch of new firefighters and have a whole bunch of people sitting in the wrong part of town.
The boom in Round Rock is so explosive, voters last year passed a bond to fund an 11th fire station. Bennett's advice for other boomtowns today?
So if I know I'm going to bring a fire station on in 3 years, I need to have a financial plan that can fund the hiring of firefighters and that can fund their salaries into the future. And so all of these things have to be lockstep together when you put something on the ground.
I, Eric Robbins.
I, Eric Robbins.
Do solemnly swear.
And with more people expected to ride Austin's public transit, the city last month just hired its first police chief with an entire force dedicated just for Cap Metro, ready to roll by 2025. Whatever solutions they can find. Now in Columbus, the city says it has a budget to hire more than 100 new police officers this year. Now it's simply a matter of filling those spots. Well, another challenge that comes with the rapid growth is finding affordable childcare. Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther says he is working with the state's largest school district to fill that void.
After-school program, particularly middle schools, is where the district asks us to step up. So we brought together a ton of partners, Boys and Girls Clubs, the YM, YW, to all help provide after-school programming, particularly for middle school kids in targeted middle schools that the district asks us to do.
And back in August, the YWCA Columbus added more locations for those after-school programs. They say it'll serve more than 1,200 kids throughout Central Ohio. Well, now to a checkup in Boomtown. The diagnosis is that our region is experiencing a growth spurt. The Ohio Hospital Association reports the treatment for this is happening in the form of investments in new facilities across Central Ohio. And as Tracy Townsend shows us, there is a bit of competition, but also collaboration for the greater good of those who live here now and those who will arrive in the next decade.
The $400 million construction project underway at Grant Medical Center is not just a heavy lift.
It's always challenging when you plan to expand a hospital in an area where you're landlocked, the downtown area.
It is also an investment in booming downtown Columbus.
It's really the front door and the community hospital for the people that live downtown, but it's also a major referral center for the region.
Brian Jepson, who is president of the Ohio Health Central Market, guides the operations and the strategic development and says the project's focus on infrastructure is a foundation for the future.
Parts of Grant are older. There's our tower, 1958 is when the tower was built. That's the main tower. So this is going to replace a lot of those beds. It's also going to allow us to get to all private beds, which is really what our patients are looking for.
This community pillar has served the city since the year 1900. It is landlocked, but this project is comprised of plans that leverage what's here to transform spaces, like moving primary care into this new medical office space.
We've had to work very closely with the city to vacate 6th Street. They've been great partners with us so that we could knock down the blue garage and then build a new building and connect it to the existing hospital, because we want to make sure that patients can transition between the new tower and the existing facilities.
1 million new people are expected to move to Central Ohio in the next 20 years. The pending population boom is creating a new view of Columbus as not just one market, but several submarkets, which reflect specialization, like the 8-story comprehensive women's health center under construction in front of Riverside Methodist and slated to open in 2027.
It's huge because the women are the ones primarily that make the healthcare decisions in the family. And so we want to create a one-of-a-kind experience for women and make sure that we're addressing all of their needs.
Need is the other focus of the submarket concept they're using. The Ohio Health footprint in Central Ohio will now include a medical campus in Canal-Winchester, a medical office in Jerome Township, an urgent care in Franklinton, and the transformation of Pickerington Medical Campus into Pickerington Methodist, where they built in shell space, as they call it, to meet the pace of growth.
We're fortunate to be in such a great community that's growing, that's vibrant, and that fuels us. That fuels us. We want to not just keep up, we want to kind of be ahead of the curve.
Tracy Townsend, 10 TV News.
Tracy, thank you. Now, Ohio Health is just one of several growing hospitals. We will continue our coverage of Central Ohio's health system in the weeks to come, but we can tell you right now, the Ohio Health Grant Project will bring 500 new jobs. We'll end this week in Boomtown with this. Go Bucks! The region's growth is also huge for the state's largest university. The Ohio State University Athletics reported a record-setting $279 million in revenue last year. $64 million came from Buckeye football ticket sales alone. 10 TV's Dom Tiberi has been covering the Buckeyes since 1981, and he says he's seen OSU's football program boom and believes it's only going to get bigger.
Ross Bjork, the new athletic director, when he was hired, he didn't mince any words. He said football is king, and it really is king in this city. It's really king in the state of Ohio. Everybody loves the Buckeyes, and with the way you can get it now, with so many different streaming and over the air and all the networks, all those games are going to only create more attention for the Buckeyes, and I don't think it's going to end.
Not a chance, Dommy, not a chance. College and professional sports are also a big business here in Boomtown with the Buckeyes, Blue Jackets, and of course, don't forget the Columbus Crew, Clippers, Fury. Who knows what we might see next? Well, if you are someone who has a vested interest in Columbus or Central Ohio, whether you've been here your entire life or just moved to the area, you'll want to watch our 10 TV Plus original, Welcome to Boomtown. It's now available to stream on 10 TV Plus, and to watch, you just download our app for free on Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV. I'm Angela Ann. Thanks so much for watching This Week in Boomtown.